Hello, it is really weird not doing a drawing video after a month of non-stop drawing, but as many of you know, my husband and I moved like 3 months ago maybe? We now live and work on my in-laws' farm in their old farmhouse, which is a building with a lot of character, and by a lot of character I mean this house was clearly built in 6 different parts, does not have air conditioning, and none of the walls are actually squared. But we cannot beat this cost of living, and a house is a house, baby. Now, our new place is significantly smaller than our old house, which honestly I'm perfectly fine with because we really didn't need that much space anyways. Both my husband and I definitely prefer a smaller house. But this did mean my sewing studio, which used to be a pretty spacious over the garage guest bedroom with a large walk-in closet, is now suddenly the size of a large walk-in closet. So the first step to transforming this room is completely emptying the room of all of the boxes that are storing my things, and also making sure that the larger pieces of furniture that I want in the room are arranged in such a way that I have usable work surfaces. So while we watch this super fun montage of me carrying stuff, let's talk about the vision. The idea is to create a very whimsical cleric core space that still has a lot of functionality. We want space to sew and cut fabric, space to display all my Ren Fair costumes, and also a place so that I don't have to keep all my wigs tangled and stuffed into a box. I also wanted to keep a lot of my fabric in a very visible place so that I stop buying sewing supplies and fabric that I don't need because I do that a lot. But not only do I want it to be super functional, I wanted it to be a cute place, a place for me to put up all my ideas with little shelves to display my Ren Fair trinket collection and my smaller projects, and also in general just be a safe and beautiful space with familiar and fun things to look at. And then to add a fun third layer of complication, I wanted to make sure it was all done in a renter-friendly way. My in-laws just renovated this house to their preferences, so it was very much out of the question to repaint things and turn this gray closet into the jewel-toned gothic vampire alchemist room of my dreams, so that's why I opted for a much lighter cleric apothecary instead. So I moved this table that came with the house into the little cove with the slanted ceiling because it fit nearly perfectly. And originally I wanted to make it the place where I put my sewing machines, but I very quickly realized that there was no way that could work. The only outlet in this entire room is against the other wall, so any extension cord would have to go across the floor in front of the entryway or over the door frame, except the door frame does this funky little thing, so extension cord management was going to look bad no matter what I did. So I took some time to sit on the floor and have a crisis before deciding that I was going to try to achieve some smaller victories, like getting my vinyl cutting machine into this little closet, which went poorly anyways because I was really hoping that I didn't have to disassemble the machine, but I did. So I tried instead to find a small victory by seeing if any of the thrifted curtains that I happen to have would fit this closet opening. It didn't. It did not. So now that we have traversed past the point of disappointment and straight into spite, it provided me with enough willpower to believe that I was strong enough to actually carry a butcher block tabletop up a flight of stairs.
I can do it! Oh, wait, what if? Okay. No, don't go back down. No, slide up. Only down. Okay, but we're almost there, really. We're almost there. Basically halfway. Stairs weren't just repaired or anything like that. And I'm not doing any permanent damage. 3 more. Oh, okay.
And before anyone starts asking me where my big, strong, manly husband was during all of this furniture moving, first of all, I am a very strong, independent woman who can do things herself, and my husband respects that. And second of all, he missed some steps at the bottom of the brick garden stairs at our old house and snapped one of his foot bones in half, which is not ideal, but he is okay now. But I did it. And the back of the table hits the door frame, but who cares? We did it. I care actually a lot, but I'm really trying to pretend that I don't. Now this, I was really nervous about putting this stuff up. I knew I wanted some sort of privacy situation over the window, but I really wanted to get a rainbow sun-catching stained glass window effect because, you know, cleric, church, stained glass, it makes sense. I was very nervous because this was $8 window film from just a random brand, but when I put the first piece up, I was just filled with such joy. This is probably some of the best $8 I've spent in my entire life. It had the exact effect that I was going for on the window, and it put these massive rainbows out onto the floor and across my workspace, and I was just very immensely pleased. Now, the only thing I was bummed out about is that the film I ordered was too narrow for the window, and I had to cut out an additional piece to fill in the gap. So I notice when I look at the window, the seam line of where the two pieces join together, but in videos and from far away it blends in pretty okay, and also how could I not be happy with these sick rainbows? So on to some more still visually satisfying but significantly more boring busy work, folding all of my fabric onto these little squares because there's nothing I love more in organization than uniform storage solutions. I got these 10 by 10 cardboard squares to fold my fabric around, and I am very aware I have a ton of cardboard boxes around my house left from moving. I could have cut the squares out myself. Why did I decide to spend more money on pre-cut cardboard? Because look, the toss-up was between efficiency of material or efficiency of the brain. I could have cut out 50 10 by 10 squares out of cardboard that I had around the house. However, for some reason, the idea of doing that made me want to feed myself to the mushrooms of the forest. So I spent a little extra money to skip that step and consequently saved myself several days of executive dysfunction and bed rot over a simple task. And I also found another thrifted curtain, and I hoped it would fit the closet door, but spoiler, it didn't. So we come back to folding and folding and folding, and believe it or not, more folding. The worst thing that I had to fold was probably this large amount of lining fabric that I bought. So lining fabric is very cheap compared to other fabric, and I often will buy it in bulk because, I mean, you can use it in literally any project, so why not just have it on hand? But I also had to throw it down the stairs and fold it bit by bit because there was no big enough space in my entire house where I could lay it out completely flat. But physically having to fold all of my fabric to fit into much smaller storage shelves really put into perspective just how much fabric I've collected over the years. I'm happy to say that a decent amount of it is secondhand and thrifted stuff, but it also really made me realize that maybe I need to center more of my sewing projects around fabric that I already own. So, you know, if anyone has any ideas for what I should do with like just a lot of purple fabric, you know, let me know. But hey, I finally caved and bought a curtain that fits my door exactly as I hoped, which was great. And because my brain has continuity issues and does 75% of 5 tasks at once instead of 100% of any single task in order, check me out struggling with this specific wig only and then dancing with my Lenore wig to Frankie Valli's Can't Take My Eyes Off of You because it is a banger of a song. So my camera, I guess, ran out of battery while I was dancing, so we just don't have footage of me putting this little apothecary shelf up. But hey, finally I have a cool place to put all my weird bottles and other trinkets, which will just randomly appear later on in the video because decorating the shelf wasn't important to me to film, I guess. But you know what was? Check it out, it's a box of ears. I also didn't film me putting up this little whiteboard that we had lying around, but I did film me putting pens into this little cup holder, and I also filmed a very shaky but very important close-up of this Kirby with legs and a pound cake that my partner 3D printed for me when we were dating because he very quickly figured out that nothing impresses me quite like absurdity. Luckily, I did film myself putting up something. These wall sconce shelves? I think they're called sconce shelves. I wanted to buy them in black originally, but I figured since we're going cleric, I could still have the gothic arches, but I would just get them in white. I also put up these gold hooks for hanging my wigs up on this pillar column thing because it just looked kind of cool. Also, I need you to know that not a single item in this room was mounted on the wall with a proper drill. It is all command strips, baby. Not sponsored. Partially because I didn't want to drill holes in the wall panels of a house that doesn't belong to me, and also mostly because drilling holes in walls specifically intimidates me a lot. So I had originally planned to put my recently acquired Drawfee poster up on one of the walls. I ended up changing my mind, and now the poster is in my living room, which my husband and I don't use as a living room at all. It's basically our office, but now I have the caring eyes of Ribbit Ranger watching over me as I work, along with the rest of these abominations, which is great. Instead of the poster, I decided to wall mount my thread storage because the other side of the room was looking a little unloved and empty and also out of focus. I got pretty far along in organizing my thread before realizing that the shot was not good, so I did some just content creator things and undid all of my work so that you could have in focus, satisfying organization content, which actually I didn't mind at all because in general, arbitrarily sorting very small amounts of very colorful things is literally one of my favorite things to do. So now for my makeup station organization. I don't know if this is super satisfying because I change my mind a lot about how things should be organized, and all of my brushes are disgusting and dirty, which I will definitely have to wash all of them before Ren Fair season. I do have a pretty big makeup collection, but only about a quarter of this was purchased specifically for cosplay intent. The rest of it was me thinking I was going to be a makeup girly and then finding out through trial and error that I'm not cool enough to be a makeup girly, and also for being an artist I'm really bad at picking colors that I like on my own skin tone. So the 5 items that I use day to day get kept in like a little cabinet drawer in my bathroom, and everything else becomes for fun makeup. I also decided that this is a good place to keep my slowly growing collection of colored contacts. Most of these contacts have not been used for any cosplays. Io was my very first pair of contacts that I had worn in my entire life, and finding out that wearing is not as scary as I thought really opened up my cosplay plans and also my bank account. Okay, so remember this clothing rack from my old sewing room? It's back, baby. We finally found it. You might be wondering how we could possibly lose an entire clothing rack in a moving process. I have no idea, but it's back and doing exactly the same thing it was doing in my old place, which is holding all of my costumes and projects and accessories. It is kind of a bummer that it blocks the storage closet, but for the time being, I don't need anything from inside of that closet, so that's a problem for future me. So at this point, I thought I was done, but I still felt like the room was missing a little something. It is kind of cute, kind of functional, but still lacking a certain amount of whimsy. So I went digging and found these fake wisteria branches that I had yet again bought for a project and didn't end up using, and put them up using clips meant to hold string lights that were held up by, you guessed it, command strips. I just don't like drilling holes. I also thought about putting string lights up, but I was having a lot of self-doubt about putting anything up on the walls at all at this point. I wasn't even sure that I wanted the wisteria up, so I decided to only full send one tentatively okay idea at a time, but I ended up really liking the wisteria. I put it on the window and the door frames. I covered the trinket shelf wall. I put some in this weird empty pillar corner. Sure, the wisteria doesn't look real at all, especially from up close, but the room went from just a cute little craft space to, yes, this is a hovel belonging to a whimsical hermit cleric. But with that, we have come to the final reveal. am so stoked with how this came out. I love the room, and also I'm really happy that there were very few things that I had to buy to make it like this. It's cool to have a nice new feeling space without having to put a ton of money into it. There are a couple things still missing from this room. That side of the room is still very empty. I think over the makeup stand, which you are on, a wall mounted mirror perhaps. I think that would be super nice and super cute. I also don't have a trash can in here, and I need one. And then I do have something to confess, and that is not everything that fit into my old sewing room fit into this room. Across the hallway, there is a second bedroom that my husband and I also turned into extra storage. A lot of our Christmas decorations and extra bedding and things like that, along with some of the craft items that I just don't use that often, or tools. And also, hold on, I gotta turn around because I'm kind of embarrassed about this one. There was an entire box of fabric that I found after I put everything together that I didn't have room for in here. I have even more fabric than I thought. Yippee! But at the end of the day, I still have this very cute working space. Also, my cats really love this room, especially this little ledge next to the window, and the cats really love sitting in the window and looking outside, which is great because that means you will be seeing more of my cats in the background of videos that I make in this room, which is amazing because I love exploiting my children for money and views. Genuinely and seriously, it is nice to have a space to call my own. Moving into a completely different space, into a house that I didn't feel like I could fully redecorate or renovate, it makes so much of a difference to have a space that you can put your own effort and love into, that, you know, nobody cares how it looks, and I don't have to care about practicality or how it looks for anyone else. It's my space, and that is just so nice. I'm really looking forward to using this space for future Ren Fair projects, because Ren Fair season is very much upon us, and you may have seen a couple of hints towards projects, some very old, much older than I'd like to admit, and some a little bit newer. Of course, I always tend to overextend myself and never finish all of the projects that I hope to finish in time for the Ren Fair. We can always hope that this year will be different, but who knows? Not me.